uploaded my first video to YouTube on June 13th, 2021. In April of 2023, just as my channel was starting to take off and make money, I decided to quit. Today, I'm going to tell you why I gave up, and why I walked away from more money than I'd ever made in my life. If you're on the fence about giving something up, but can't seem to make the decision to hit the eject button, or perhaps you're in a situation that isn't working for you, but you're too afraid to even consider saying, stop, enough, I'm out. Or maybe you're just trying to quit smoking. That's okay too. Then this could be what gives you the courage, that extra little nudge, the confidence to stand up and call time, and move on to the next chapter of your life. So stay tuned.
Yo, what's good YouTube? It's your boy Max. My first YouTube videos were not good. That's not false modesty. You should check them out if you don't believe me. They weren't exactly garbage, they were just exactly as bad as you'd expect from someone who doesn't know how to write, film, edit, or present videos, and yet starts doing something that involves all of those things. I did get better though, and after making around 50 videos, I started to hit some kind of stride. I never made anything award-winning, but I did get to a point where I could turn out a video that looked and sounded pretty good, maybe even professional. Professional enough that some brands started sending me some things, in some cases even valuable things, just so I talk about them in my videos. And free stuff is the best kind of stuff. Better yet, a few of my videos were starting to get thousands of views, and my subscriber count was growing faster and faster. I got monetized, and I guess I was a few months and a couple of dozen videos away from making real money, getting sponsored, all that good stuff. And then I quit.
It's hard to explain to an outsider why you would give up a project that seems to be going well, headed in the right direction, exactly according to plan. I loved making videos, and I still do, and I craved and still do the degree of freedom that being a full-time, self-employed content producer would afford me.
When I had very few subscribers and first started asking around if brands wanted to work with me, the first responses I got were from small businesses, often just one guy running a brand on his own, and almost without exception those people were very sweet and generous, and insisted that I should say whatever I wanted about their products, and that was great. I had a list of pretty high-tier brands that were like, in an ideal world, who would I choose to work with? I realize in hindsight that I was way too small to get involved with any of them. But when the opportunity to work with one of them came up about a year into my YouTube career, there was no way I was going to turn them down. I won't name the brand, by the way, so don't bother asking. I ended up doing a lot of work for these guys. If I'm honest, way too much work, even had they held up their end, which they absolutely did not. I was dazzled by the brand. I tried to tell myself that the tiny amount of exposure I'd get from it was worth it, and then they didn't even deliver on that. And then they ghosted me. And that's enough said about that.
I'm not that thin-skinned that this on its own was enough to make me step back from a channel that I had by that point put almost 2 years of work into. But what it did was make me question whether the work I was doing at that point was anything like what I had originally set out to accomplish. I knew by then that it definitely wasn't. But what it helped me realize was that I didn't even really have a plan.
Because I was never really trying to be a YouTuber in the first place. Let me explain.
Back in 2018, I was making furniture for a living. I liked the job, but the money was honestly crap, with no chance of ever getting better, because watching the boss trying to run a business was like watching a dog trying to do long division. Except I guess you'd feel sorry for the dog? Okay, it's a bad analogy. Point is, after 7 years, I was basically running the whole workshop, while still on barely more than minimum wage. So when I got offered way more money to go work for a manufacturing startup, I jumped at it. The new company grew fast, and my career grew with it. In the first 2 years, I got 4 promotions, eventually to a senior management position, making multiples of what I was at the furniture place. I drove a cool car, I had a whole team working for me, There were all kinds of perks. From the outside, I guess it probably looked like I was doing pretty great.
I was not doing pretty great.
Listen, I'm not gonna bore you with a whole story about why my awful job was awful, mostly because I still hate talking about it. To summarize, some of the people I was working with were gigantic assholes, and the conditions in which I was required to do my job were increasingly bleak and demoralizing. And the only solution anyone ever came up with was to pay me more and more money to keep putting up with it. And a lot of you understand that even a large and growing pile of cash can't in fact grant you the ability to endure things that nobody in their right mind would tolerate. At least, not for long.
3.5 years ago, I was sat at a very good table in my favorite restaurant, enjoying a delicious and quite expensive Valentine's Day meal with my gorgeous, smart, and funny wife. And I was completely miserable. And I had no idea what to do about it. My wife, who among her many talents has a knack for cutting straight through bullshit, said to me, "If you could do anything at all, what would you do?" Well, I think I said something stupid like, "No, I don't know, I'd probably quit my job and do YouTube." "Okay," she said, "do that then." Yes, I am a very lucky man.
Okay, so it isn't that simple. Nobody can just walk away from that kind of income without feeling it. It took several months of planning before I was finally ready to hand in my resignation, and a considerable amount of effort and sacrifice to make it work after that.
Full disclosure, I understand now that I said I want to quit my job and do YouTube because it sounded better than I want to quit my job. Even when you're at the end of your rope, you always want to sound like you've got some kind of plan. The YouTube part was irrelevant. It was a hobby, a side hustle at most. What I really wanted, what I needed, was to just
Stop.
What is this? Yes, good boy. Right. Yes.
About 18 months ago, a very good friend of mine made me aware of an opportunity that had come up on his team. It was a very good opportunity, but I did consider it very carefully, and I almost turned it down because I wasn't sure if I was ready yet. It wasn't a decision between taking that job or continuing to do YouTube. By that point, I wasn't making any real money from YouTube, and I could probably have taken the job and kept making YouTube videos if I really wanted to. I did apply, and I got the job, and it all worked out, and I'm happier than I've been in years. Roll credits!
But that's not the point of the video. What is the point? Maybe it's this.
Humans are naturally biased towards safety. We instinctively want to pick where we are, even if where we are isn't great, over where we could be, even if where we could be might be amazing. We don't know for sure that it will be amazing, right? And it's that fear of the unknown that keeps us frozen in place, whether it's in a bad relationship or a dead-end job, whatever it is. I mean, I know people that are overweight, that are too afraid of being thin to give up overeating. That's me. And more often than not, those shitty situations are actively trapping us, whether it's by seducing us with things we perceive as being valuable, like money or status, even if those things don't make us happy, or by convincing us we couldn't do any better if we did try.
Or, and this is the big one, they tell us that giving up is gonna hurt. It's gonna sting. It's gonna suck. You'll be poor and cold and scared and hungry and lonely unless you stay right here in this dark little hole, which, as bad as it is at least familiar, is at least predictable. And the worst thing is, that's not wrong. There is pain in giving up on anything that matters, even if your life gets better in the long run. Real pain.
But that's because it's also true that nothing worth having comes easy, even if it's just the process of putting yourself in the position to be able to have it. I wouldn't have the good job I have now if I hadn't left the job I had before. But I had to quit and then be out of work for a year to get to where I am now. That's the risk. That's the pain. Was it all worth it? It absolutely was. But here's the good news. Here, finally, is why it's okay to just give up.
Last story, and then we can all go get a snack, play video games, whatever you're into. Recently I decided to sell all my music gear. It's not a big deal. I've always bought and sold music gear, and I've not been doing much music lately, and recently I've kind of become interested in minimalism as well. A good friend of mine found out about this, and with what were clearly the best of intentions, took me one side and said, "Hey, I'm sure you know what you're doing, but maybe you should consider holding on to at least a few pieces of gear, for when you decide to pick stuff back up again." I thought about this for a minute, and what I replied probably came out more sarcastic than I'd intended. I said, "Thanks, dude, but I don't think they're gonna stop selling guitars anytime soon."
But what I mean is, there was a point in my life before I had any guitars. Over time, I accumulated a bunch of guitars. Now I'm choosing to go back to no guitars. If at any point I want to go back to some guitars, I know I can do that because I've done it before.
Okay, so that's a bit of a weak metaphor. Let's try that again with a touch of canned inspiration. Wherever you are now, you got there on your own. You got there with your skills, your experience, your hard work, your blood, your sweat, and your tears.
You can choose to give up on that situation, but you'll never stop being the person who got you to where you are.
You can get there again if you need to. But more importantly, you can get even further. You can do even better. You can achieve even more. Maybe way more than you even thought possible.
But you'll never find out what you can achieve if you don't let go of those old useless things you cling to and take that leap of faith.
And never, ever forget, even if things don't go to plan, no matter what happens,
no matter what gets lost along the way,
you'll always have your most valuable asset.
It's you. It's always been you.
Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.